Hello everyone, welcome to Code and Boots. So in this video, we are going to discuss about the topic how to protect your web applications from brute force, DDoS and botnet attacks. So now there are a lot of web applications in the internet, okay, and all these applications, along with the applications, there are a lot of attackers as well. So attackers are scanning across the web to identify vulnerabilities. They are identifying new vulnerabilities. They are attacking applications. They are deploying vulnerable items. They are making lot of activities on the web. So every day new items are getting identified, right? So that's why we are getting security patches for all these applications frequently. So it's very important for us as application developers, as architects, to protect our application and protect our data. Okay, so so there is, if somebody asks what is the foolproof mechanism for protecting your application, so there is no answer, no single answer for that. So what we can try is basically we have to enforce multiple mechanisms to reduce the impact, or to maximize the prevention mechanism for all these attacks. Okay, so I'm trying to explain a mechanism using NGINX and Fail2Ban to protect your application. So there are, if you can add more layers, it will delay the attack. Okay, so these are options to prevent. So let's get into that example. So let's get into what's brute force attack. Okay, so let's understand what is this attack. So this is a very common attack and it was there from long time. So brute force attack is a hacking method that uses trial and error method to crack the passwords. So let's say if you have an application where you use username password. So with brute force, what they try is they will have a dictionary of some hacked databases. Okay, so where it will have lot of commonly used passwords. So that's why people, we usually enforce the password complexity. The reason is if we use some known words, so that will be there as password in some other systems as well. So these guys use all these combinations, a permutation combination technique, and they will try multiple times to figure out what's the password for this. Okay, so so you see, in a single attempt it may not work. What they do is they put millions of times, they will be trying this. Okay, so how can we reduce this? So, or how can we prevent this? This can be prevented by blocking these kind of continuous requests. Let's say that's why if you see in systems, if you try with wrong username password multiple times, it will lock the account. The reason is the system don't want to accept these kind of requests. They consider it as something malicious. So we'll have to enable some mechanism like that, either by locking that account, or in this scenario we can, what we can do, we can try blocking that IP itself. If the request is coming from a source in this way with invalid credential, we can even block that source itself. Okay, the goal of this attack is to gain the access to the target system. Gain means, let's say if you get the username password, you gain access to that system, then you get inside that, and then you will do some activity, malicious activity. Let's say if it is a banking site, you can get into that, transfer money, right? So if it is some other site, like you can remove users, maybe steal data. You can do so many things depending upon the application. So this is the core of brute force attack. So next we'll discuss about what is DOS, that means denial of service, and DDoS, distributed denial of service attack. So let's understand what is denial of service attack. Denial of service is a cyber attack where the aim is to basically bring the system down, target system down. So how can we bring the system down? We can interrupt the service by hitting so many in multiple times, right? So let's say if you have a web application, and if I am firing millions of requests to your application within a short period of time, what will happen? So the load on your application will rise, right? So it will increase the CPU memory utilization. It will impact the overall performance of the application. So what will happen? The actual users, okay, the genuine users, for them the service will not be available. You will see the system is down, or heavy traffic to this. Okay, so those kind of errors you will see. Finally the system won't function. Sometimes the service itself will go down. Okay, so that is denial of service. So here what will happen? The attacker is, the aim is not to get into the system, the aim is to bring down the service. Okay, so in case of distributed denial of service attack, so what they do is, instead of firing from one source, they try it from multiple sources. So that means, I mean, they will deploy these kind of attacking attacking programs or viruses from multiple sources, so that it is like, I mean, multiple people shooting one person. Okay, so the impact will be even high, right? So let's say if one source is able to send 1000 requests, if they deploy this attacking mine in, let's say 20 sources, so it will be 20 times, right? So that is like, I mean, distributed denial of service attack. So the impact will be very high in case of this one. So here the service will go down. So this is also a very common attack which is there in the in the net. Okay, so there are various flavors of it, like, I mean, we have botnets, like it's all functioning, I mean, something similar. Okay, so the how can we basically, so if you see the similarity between these three attacks, the DDoS, DOS and brute force, so all these attacks, there will be multiple incoming requests, okay, at a very high rate in a very short period of time. Okay, so the goal of the attacker is either to bring down or disrupt the services provided by the application, and also to steal the data. Okay, so how can we, so if you generalize this, what we can say is the number of requests from a single source. If you say, it's going to be very high in all these cases of attacks. So how can we block, how can we protect our application from all these type of attacks? Let's say it's not, I mean, a single mechanism, we'll have to enable multiple mechanisms, okay, to block all these. So let's figure out, I mean, what are those. So one is, let's say if you limit the request rate from a specific source. So let's say if you want to limit the request rate in 1 minute period, I don't want to if let's say anything greater than 20, okay, 20 request is considered to be higher according to my application, then what I can do, I can put a rule. I can say configure a rule inside the NGINX. Okay, so restrict the limit as 20 requests per minute. Anything more, block. Okay, so in that way, what will happen, it cannot do basically the service, the so I'm talking this example based on NGINX as the web server. So in this scenario, NGINX will block there itself. It won't route the application request within the application. Okay, it won't. So usually what will happen is we'll have NGINX as the web server outside. Okay, so maybe I'll explain with a picture. So I'll explain with a picture. So we'll have NGINX here, and we'll have the application behind, app. Okay, and in the NGINX we'll have a proxy, and this will be routing the request. Okay, the first request will come from all these sources to NGINX, and NGINX will route the request internally based on the proxy rule. So if the request passes to the application, here is where, I mean, the compute happens. Okay, so within the application is where the compute happens. NGINX, this will be just a proxy that will just routes the request, okay, based on some specific rules. So if you are able to block it here itself, what will happen, we can avoid the load on the application. So we can enforce some filtering mechanism over here. Okay, so that means, I mean, we can put some filtering mechanism over here to figure out whether a request is genuine or not. Based on that, I mean, we'll say, okay, allow or deny. Okay, so that is what we are going to do. So then where is the real data residing? Real data is residing inside the application, right? So let's say if you are blocking it here, then they won't be able to get inside the application, and similarly they won't be able to get inside the database systems as well. Okay, so that's the goal. Let's come back here. So one is limiting the request. So that is we can achieve by adjusting some configuration in the NGINX. I have already created a video which explains this process in detailed way. Okay, so how can we limit the request rate? Okay, so in an application. Okay, so it's an NGINX configuration, so I'll anyway cover the topic here as well. So second is we can blacklist or whitelist the source IP address. Okay, if we know the source IP address, not all applications this is applicable, because in some specific applications only we know this. Okay, so if your application is something that you can whitelist IP addresses, the source IP addresses, then you can whitelist it in the NGINX configuration. Okay, you can even do this whitelisting part in the firewall level as well, but at the NGINX level also we can do this. Okay, similarly blacklisting, I mean I have already explained this topic in another video, so please check my YouTube channel. So here you will see a topic for whitelisting or blacklisting the IP address in NGINX. This can be also achieved by NGINX config. Then third item is block suspicious IP address. So this is something that happens dynamically. So attackers change the sources dynamically. Okay, so what they do is they can they may get into some other system, they may use that as the source of attack. Okay, so daily, like I mean, they are identifying new sources, and they may run behind VPNs, they may use like some proxies, so many things they may use. So the IP addresses keep changing. Okay, so in that scenario what will happen, we need to do act dynamically. So that is where I mean we need to use some software to dynamically block this based on their nature. So here we use a software called Fail2Ban. Okay, Fail2Ban is an open source software, so we can combine it with NGINX and do this blocking mechanism dynamically. We can block the source based on the IP address for a period of time based on the nature of request coming in. We can configure the rules based on our application, and we can say block this application or block this IP address for this much time if this condition is happening. Okay, so in that way we can configure custom things. Then the last option is blacklist known vulnerable sources. Okay, so there is a project, I mean NGINX bad bot blocker. So it's available in GitHub. So using that, so what they are doing is they are updating a lot of vulnerable source IP addresses, and also a lot of vulnerable headers, everything. Okay, all these things they have like a dictionary, and this is I mean this will be used as a plugin in the NGINX, and as we know, like this known list, so the NGINX will block if any of these things are identified. Okay, so but the problem with this is like I mean a static list, right? It keeps getting updated periodically, but the problem is we won't be able to handle the third point. Okay, that's why third point is very important, because let's say your application is something specific and there is a new attacker which is not even known to anyone else started attacking your application. Okay, in that scenario the fourth point will not work, because fourth point will only block known attackers in the web. Okay, but third point, it can identify like I mean anyone who is coming in as well. So anyone who is doing any malicious activity to your site, so with the third, that means using the Fail2Ban we can block. Okay, so I'll cover I mean the first 3 points in this video, how we can block these kind of attacks. Okay, the fourth one I'll guide you where to, because it's well explained in the GitHub, so you can go through that and configure. Okay, it's just a script and you just need to execute that, and the steps are well explained in GitHub. Okay, so that is why like I mean we so that means I mean combining NGINX and Fail2Ban without the use of any additional firewall. So firewall anyway, like I mean as normal web developers or small scale web developers, putting a firewall is expensive, and let's say you have a simple web application which is hosted on maybe cloud server. So adding a there are cloud firewall services available, but adding that cloud firewall service is expensive. But using like the available configurations within NGINX and also using an open source software, we can achieve this. That is what I'm trying to explain here. Okay, so that means by adjusting some configurations in NGINX and also by deploying Fail2Ban, so together we can achieve a good level of security in your application. Okay, so let's okay, and the bad bot blocker. Okay, so bad bot blocker, so the fourth point that we discussed, right? So you can check this particular GitHub URL. Okay, you can just search in Google about bad bot blocker, ultimate bad bot blocker. Okay, so here they have mentioned the detailed steps. Step 1, manual installation steps. Okay, so there is automated installation also, so you can either use this, or so if you see here, you can check the automated installation script. Okay, it is very easy, so you can configure it in few clicks. Okay, or else you can go with the manual installation step, downloading this one and then configuring it. So in basically 6 or 7 steps, you will be able to get this bad bot blocker up and running. Okay, you see, like, I mean, in few steps, it's basically in the 7th step itself, your NGINX is up with all these configuration, and they are doing, we are configuring a cron as well to dynamically update the dictionary or the list of repository of known vulnerable sources. Okay, so that is what this bad bot blocker is doing. So I'll not explain in detail, so maybe, like, I mean, I can put this in the channel's description. Okay, or you can just Google about, just do a search on bad bot blocker. Okay, you will get the URL. So I'll explain about the NGINX and the fail2ban configuration. So let's get into the machine. So I have my machine with me. Now the first thing that I'm going to do is I have already NGINX installed here. Okay, so if you see, I have an NGINX running here, so it's up running. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to install fail2ban. Okay, fail2ban, you can install it very easily. The components are already available in the Ubuntu repository. I am using an Ubuntu machine. Okay, so the command is apt install fail2ban. Okay, so it will install fail2ban package. Let's see. So it's installing. Yeah, depending upon the internet speed, the time will vary. It will be finished in a while. Okay, so it's getting installed. Okay, it's installed. Service fail2ban status, it will be in stopped state. Yeah, it's running. Okay, so but by default what will happen is fail2ban service will be running with default configuration. Okay, so it won't accept or it won't protect the NGINX by default. By default it is only protecting, it's going to only work with SSH. That means, I mean, if somebody is trying to try to enter into your machine using Linux machine using SSH, so it will take care of it, or it will block that source based on the default configuration. So but there are a lot of, it's not just meant for SSH, or it's not just meant for NGINX. There are a lot of things we can configure, and we can even customize it beyond. Okay, so we'll get into, like, I mean, how we can protect NGINX and your web application using fail2ban. So what I'm going to explain is, I'm going to configure a web application with a basic authentication. So for demonstrating the basic authentication, I'm going to configure basic authentication within our NGINX, so that, like, I'll get a page where I can enter username password, and using username password the authentication will happen, then I can get into the application. So the demonstration is, if I enter wrong username password multiple times, I want to get blocked. That's the idea. Okay, so for getting or enabling username password, I need to create a virtual host with basic authentication enabled. Okay, so let's create a virtual host for that, or let's make the NGINX configuration for that. So the virtual host configuration I have already explained in one of my previous videos, so you can watch that video. I'll pin the link also to this video, so you can refer to that to get more understanding of this. Okay, so what I'll do is I'll configure CPU home site. I have already some virtual host. I'll create something called codersweb.conf. So this will have, as I have used it before, this will have a lot of SSL related things. First, let's clear all the SSL related configuration. let's clear all the SSL related configuration. I just want a basic listen 80 and then I'm just cleaning up all this configuration, okay, so that okay, I think it looks neat now. Okay, the syntax is clear. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to add in the /API section, I'm going to add, it's proxying it to a URL. So it's a local URL 192.168.1.148:8000. I'm proxying it to a simple Python program that is running over here. So consider this as the application. So you can see it's running on port 8000, right? HTTP 192.168.1.148:8000, and I have an endpoint /API. So if you hit this endpoint, you will get just a static JSON. Okay, so /API, you see it is getting, just giving you success. That's what it is giving. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use this, I'm going to put a basic authentication in front. Okay, so the basic authentication configuration I've already kept it here. So this one, okay, these two lines we need to add. So along with adding this, so for configuring this, there is a password file, right, user file, where we have the username password configured, right? So we need to do some activity to store the credential here. So I have already explained this part also in a detailed video, so I'll pin that video also here, but I'll show you how to do that in this video quickly. Okay, but if you need more details, you can refer to that video. So first thing is we need to we can create first let's install the Apache 2 utils. Okay, apt get install Apache 2 utils for generating the password file. Okay, I'm going to install that, apt install Apache 2 util. Now you see it's already installed, it installed. Now what we'll do is we'll create the use. So you see /etc nginx.ht password. So this is a file where the username and the password will be stored. Okay, so we are creating a password file, and I'm going to create a user coder inside this. Okay, let's see. Okay, now for coder user, it's asking me the password. So I'm just entering a simple password. So what will happen is, you see a file will get created, right? And it will have the username and a password. Okay, you can even generate this password using a different method. Using OpenSSL also you can generate this password. Okay, there are multiple ways. I've explained this in detail in another video. Okay, so I've used the normal Apache util method, ht password -c. Okay, this is the file, the password file, and this is a user. So you can, let's say instead of coder, if you want some other user, you can create that. Okay, so now we have already linked this password file in our Apache conf. Okay, if you see this coders web conf, you can see the password file is already configured. codersweb.coderinputs.com is the domain that we attached. Okay, then user file here, restricted content. So now let's see. Let's validate the configuration again, nginx-t. Always do this before restarting, because if there is any configuration problem, it will not load. Okay, so otherwise what will happen, your application will go down. then we'll have to troubleshoot what happened, right? So without downtime, if you want to restart, just test the configuration before you reload the configuration. NGINX reload. Okay, now I have reloaded. Now let's see the coder's website. Okay, so let's hit this coder's web dot coder in boots.com/API. Okay, now see, it's asking for username, password. Coder, I entered the password. See, it's authentication successful. That's why it is giving me the message. Okay, so it's insecure. We can generate SSL certificate. How we can do? Certbot -NGINX. I have a certbot installed. We can even make HTTPS enabled. Okay, let's make it a production grade website. So that is just to remove this not secure thing. We'll make it with a padlock with a certificate. It's taking some time because it is just doing a scan. Actually it is quick. I don't know why it's going slow. Yeah, okay, so now it's asking, oh sorry, I think I'm in the menu came, I clicked on enter, so cancel. I'm just coming out, I'm running again. Code certbot -NGINX. It's usually quick. I don't know why there is a delay here. I'm just anyway putting the number 2 here. Okay, let's see what happens. Okay, yeah, now it's happening, requesting a certificate for that. So my number 2 worked. Okay, now it's generating the certificate. Okay, created the certificate, deployed. Okay, now just service NGINX reload. Okay, second option was this one because I had multiple domain attached. So this is the site that we are talking about. Now let's refresh this. Now you see the padlock gone. Right, see the insecure one gone. Now it will show connection is secure, certificate is valid. You see, certificate is valid for 3 months from now. Okay, so now we have a proper site with authentication, everything. The problem here is, let's say if an attacker comes. Okay, now let's verify the log. Okay, so our log is there in tail-f/var log NGINX error log. Okay, let's verify this. So here if I hit this URL, okay, I just put some random password. You can see in the log you will see password mismatch, right, from this particular client coderboots.com. okay, some problem happened, right? So I can try this combination multiple times. You see, I can try all. Let's say an attacker can come, try all the combination here. It's not blocking anything. Okay, see, I am trying multiple combinations. Okay, so all the times, I mean, it is giving wrong. Okay, and if somebody tries and finally figures out, okay, the right password. Okay, let's say somebody finds, the attacker finds, okay, using a dictionary permutation combination, they find finally the nice password, they will get into the system. And now you see there is no error because it is a proper password, right? So this is what happens with brute force. How to block this? Because in the log, if you see, there is multiple requests from the same source with wrong password, right? So we can block this by enforcing the mechanisms that we discussed. So first is like the request limit enforcing, right? So what we can do, coder. So this is by enforcing the limit request by creating the request limit. Okay, so here what we can do is there is a configuration within NGINX itself, remit request and create a zone. Okay, and let's name it as like API call limit, and I'm creating the cache size as like 20 MB and rate is 1 request per second. Okay, so anything beyond 1 request, or we can even configure it at the minute level also. Minute level means maybe 5 requests per minute. Okay, and in case of this type of error, we can say block this. Okay, so and the if it goes beyond this 5 requests per minute, it will block, and the error code that will show is 429, and within our virtual host we can use this particular limit zone. Okay, we can enable this zone. I've explained about this limit section in another video. You can go through that video, but I'm just skimming through the topic here. Okay, so you can enable this configuration, so that will take care of limiting the request. But still, let's say we need to block it based on the behavior of the request. Let's say that within this limit itself, somebody is trying like a lot of wrong entries of username password, right? That means the request can be again considered as like malicious, right? And also one more problem is in some scenarios we cannot put this rate limiting part, right? Because the nature of some application, the nature of the application does not permit putting this kind of rate limiter. Okay, that's where we need the fail2ban kind of software. So NGINX-T. Okay, now there is some problem with the configuration. What is showing? Already bound to the key. Okay, this is already enabled in some other place. Okay, because I have already used this configuration limit app. Okay, I just changed the name of the zone. That will solve the problem, I believe, because I have used this configuration somewhere else. So I am changing the name of the zone, because zone name has to be unique in NGINX. -T. What is this? Okay, limit request status, right? So this is already enabled in a different configuration. That's why what we can do, we can comment this, so that will solve the problem. Now it will be all fine. Now it's fine. Service NGINX restart. Okay, now we have taken care of the limit part, so it will limit the request to this rate based on the source. Okay, now let's enable the fail2ban part. Fail2ban. So fail2ban uses a concept called jail. Okay, so within fail2ban we can create rules. Okay, so and we call these rules as jails. Okay, so and how it will do is based on the condition, it will evaluate the condition. Okay, and based on the condition it will create a rule in the firewall. So firewall means basically in the Linux system we have a very simple firewall. Okay, so we have something called the UFW, right? So using the UFW, okay, so so it will create a rule in the UFW and then block the source for a period of time. Okay, so it basically uses something called find time. Okay, find time. So we can say jail find time, then okay, then blocked ban time. Okay, so jail is the condition where to identify a problem. Okay, find time is basically based on the condition within the jail is executed based on the number of occurrences within this find time. Let's say if I am keeping like 5 minutes, so I'm saying if username password wrong authentication. Okay, if within the find time if basically if there are max tries allowed, let's say 10. Okay, within 10 I'll allow, so let's say 10 minutes or 5 minutes. Okay, so jail is maybe authentication. Error. So in jail we'll configure a condition to identify authentication error, and if within 5 minutes find time, if the 10 times if this issue happens, what we'll say block the site for maybe 20 minutes, block that source for 20 minutes. So that means it will configure a rule within the firewall to block that specific source for 20 minutes. After 20 minutes, what will happen? It will again allow. Okay, so that means not see if it is basically maybe a mistake by genuine user, so he won't be blocked forever. And the administrator, the site administrator, doesn't have to manage this manually. Fail2Ban will take care of this modification of the rule dynamically, right? So let's get into the Fail2Ban configuration, and let's create the jail for NGINX authentication. So what we'll do is, first thing, we will get into the Fail2Ban configuration section. So it will be there in /etc Fail2Ban. Once you install Fail2Ban, you will find the configuration somewhere in /etc Fail2Ban. So if you do ls, you will see Fail2Ban, or there is something called jail.conf, right? Fail2ban.conf will have like the service related configuration. Jail.conf will have the jail related configuration. So if you open this, you will see a lot of default configuration. Some of those are commented, some of those are with the default values. So I would not recommend modifying this configuration, because this is something by default. Okay, and if you see like the SSH jail will be enabled by default. Okay, so what I am going to do is I am going to create a copy of this, and I'll create the NGINX. So you can see by there itself, NGINX bot search is there, NGINX bad request is there. There are so many things related to NGINX HTTP auth is there. So what we are going to do is we are going to enable in this video. I'm going to enable this NGINX HTTP auth jail, and then show an example based on that. But you can leverage all these, the limit request, bot search, right, bad request, all these you can enable, and then protect your app in a better way. Okay, so the configurations are very similar, so you just need to enable that and enable that. That's it. So let's create a copy of this jail.conf to jail.local. Okay, so another thing I'll show you. So there is something called jail.d. Okay, so in this directory we can add, okay, so jail config, you can create more configurations here and keep it here. That is another option. But what I'm going to do is I'm just going to create a configuration file jail.local, which is a copy of jail.conf, and then enable our NGINX specific configuration. Okay, and all these configuration, how it works is there is something called filters.d. okay, the definition of the filter condition that we are doing, all those are defined over here. So whatever NGINX related, also you see there is a definition for NGINX HTTP auth conf. If you open filters.d NGINX auth conf, you can see it is checking for, it's doing a regex based check on the logs. Okay, so it's doing a regex based check on the NGINX logs and identifying a pattern. Okay, if it is identifying this pattern, what it will do, it will say the condition has been met, right? So similar to this, we can also create custom filters. Okay, it allows us to create custom filters. Okay, so that's how, like, you can see there are a lot of things here: Postgres, MongoDB, MS SQL, then Mosquito, something is there, right? MQTT is there, MySQLD, right? SC Linux, right? A lot of jail configurations or filter configurations are already there. Okay, by default you can leverage those. So let's get into our stuff. Okay, so now what we are going to do is we are going to we have already created this file, right, the jail.local. Now let's open jail.local, and this, let's get into the configuration where we have NGINX. So let's search for NGINX. So we have NGINX HTTP auth, right? So here it will look for HTTP and HTTPS port, that means 80 and 443 log path. So we are looking at the NGINX error log, right? So NGINX error log, it will look at the default location, but if you want to override that path with something else, you can override that path as well. Okay, so that's up to you. So right now it will look at, like, my var log NGINX error.log, it will look at that path. So now what we'll do is we will add some other things over here. Okay, so one is we need to enable this. Okay, so what we'll do, we will do enable equal to true. Okay, so we'll keep enabled equal to true. And another thing, I mean, see the documentation related to this fail2ban, it is available in the fail2ban website also. You can look at that and see all the possible option. I'm just explaining you with a specific scenario. Okay, and now we have enabled equal to true. Now next thing is we need to identify the basic configuration about the ban time, okay, find time, and the max retries. Okay, those things you can see the configuration at the top. So before, so I'm just scrolling up, you can see ignore command is there. So there are 3 or 4 things to discuss before that. One is ignore IP. Okay, ignore IP, this is basically we can whitelist some set of sources for fail2ban. Let's say you wanted to whitelist a set of sources, then you can whitelist those, so by specifying the IP addresses over here. Okay, so you can whitelist those IP addresses over here. So you can you can put the IP addresses either by using the space or comma as a separator. Okay, so that's one option. Then second is ignore command. Okay, so even from you can whitelist some specific commands, okay, and IP address. Okay, so that means I mean the path to command and IP address. In this way you can whitelist a specific source and command from specific source. Let's say if you don't want to trust all the commands from a specific source, but a specific command from a specific source, so those things, maybe an API call or something, right? So those things also you can whitelist here. Then here is where I mean we have the ban time. Ban time is this is like I mean the source will be banned for this much time if the condition has met. Find time means this is a time where we say like I mean the number of max retries, right? So let's say if it is an authentication issue, so if the authentication fails for 5 times within 10 minutes, then the source will be banned for 10 minutes. Okay, so that is what I mean it happens. We can adjust this configuration, so based on your need you can adjust. So I'm just keeping the max retry as 3. Okay, so as 3. So if my authentication fails for 3 times within 10 minutes, then the source will be banned for the IP will be banned for 10 minutes. Okay, you can increase this maybe 1 hour, 2 hour, 1 day, it's up to you. Okay, so you can create your own configuration. So one we have configured. Okay, next is actions. Okay, so one more thing to configure is, sorry, ban time, oh sorry, I forgot to save that. So max retries I'll keep it 3. Then NGINX I'll have to enabled. Okay, I allow to enable it true. I've enabled it to true. Okay, so these are the things. Now next we have to discuss about one more thing, that is actions. So at the top, we'll go to the top, it's at the top of the configuration. There are a lot of things in the configuration file. Okay, so that's why I'm scrolling to the top. Okay, so now you see actions. Okay, action means we can enable mail configurations. Let's say if there is this kind of activity happening, we can specify so we can send emails. Okay, so that means here by configuring there you will see this action under action at the top of this configuration file. So basically below this find time, max retry, all these things, right? You will see this configuration somewhere near to this at the top. Okay, in the default section somewhere at the top of the configuration file you will see a mail section. Okay, mail section, what will happen is it will not send. So it will, if you see destination email, this is the mail ID you provide. Sender, you can specify the sender ID and it will use send mail. Okay, so you can configure the mailbox, so maybe like postfix or send mail you can configure within this machine, and then if you specify the sender and the receiver, it will send emails based on this kind of jail configuration. Okay, so that's it about this configuration. Now what we'll do is let's save this. Okay, now we have saved the file. Now let's enable and start the fail2ban. Let's see whether it will enable. Means I mean, if you do this systemctl enable fail2ban, then even if you reboot the machine, okay, it will start the service automatically at the time of startup, at the boot time. Okay, so now service fail2ban status. Okay, you will see fail2ban server is up. Okay, now what we'll do is we'll verify the client status. Okay, client status means it will tell us, or it will show the jail status. There is a command fail2ban client status. Let's see what is there. You see there is number of jails enabled is just SSHD. Okay, now there is one missing configuration. We have one section here. Let's put the enabled equal to true. Okay, default includes before. Okay, SSHD enabled equal to true, default ban time stephen.conf. Let's enable this. There is an enabled option over there. I have just enabled that, and then let's check the status of the NGINX fail2ban. Oh, it's failed. Okay, sync configuration for okay, let's see. There is something wrong with the configuration file. So NGINX auth enabled equal to true, mode equal to normal, HTTP auth fail2ban restart. Now let's see client status. Yeah, now you see after restarting, so there was nothing required. Okay, it was just a restart issue. So after restarting the fail2ban, you can see number of jails is 2. Okay, so so just to summarize what I did, there was it was just a restart problem. I just restarted. The enabled was, so I'll reiterate or show the configuration once again. There was a enabled at the top. Okay, in the default section you will see an enable option. Okay, but if you use this enable, what will happen is it will enable all the jails within this configuration. So I don't want to enable all the jails. Okay, so this section, if I don't want to enable all the jails, I just wanted to, by default it is false. Okay, by default it is false, and I want to enable only the NGINX specific jail. That is why I have in the NGINX HTTP auth section I put mode equal to normal, enabled equal to true, and then these two things by default. Okay, now if you see sudo fail2ban client status, the number of jails 2, SSHD is there by default. That means if anyone tries to make SSH request multiple times, failed authentication attempts, it will block. Then the one that we have enabled right now is NGINX HTTP auth, right? So now what we'll do, we have this, right? Let's try to get into the site multiple times with wrong username password. Let's see what happens to this, or let's see how this guy acts. And one more thing, let's see the firewall rules right now. Okay, so you see, like, I mean the inbound and the outbound rules, right? You're not seeing anything related to fail2ban. It's all related to something related to Docker, and this is something that is there in the system by default. Okay, when I installed Docker, it added some of those, but apart from that there is nothing. Okay, so now let's try to hit this one multiple times. We have configured something like if you try wrong authentication 3 times, it should do something, right? So I entered 1, 2, allowed, 3, okay, allowed, fourth one. Let's see what happens. You see, fourth time when I did this, it is doing something. It is blocking. It is not allowing me to enter. Okay, it is rotating, spinning. That means something happened over here. Okay, so let's see what is in the logs. So in the NGINX logs, you will see var/var log NGINX error.log. You see there were like 3 or 4 requests with 4 requests with all these, 3 requests with all these. In the fourth request, what it did is, let's verify the client stat. Let's verify the firewall rule once again. Okay, now in the firewall rule, you will see a new rule got added. HTTP auth this source reject. Okay, reject with ICMP port unreachable, and also it added this reject to my, you see, 2 rules. One is ping. Okay, it blocked anything like any ping request to this particular server, and also it blocked HTTP and HTTPS, that means 80 and 443 request to this machine. Okay, and this block will be there for almost a period of 10 minutes. That is what we configured, right? After 10 minutes it will enable. Okay, it will enable. You can see the site can't be reached. Now if you try any times from now, it will show you site can't be reached. Okay, because it's not. And if you see now, I'm just clearing the logs here. Okay, so any previous, all the logs, all the requests reached this server, that means the application server. Now if I am hitting this, if I am making any hit from this, it won't reach the application server. It is getting blocked at the NGINX itself. So it's not, right now it is not even reaching NGINX, because before that the firewall has blocked it. Okay, now it is getting blocked even as per this picture. What's happening is there is the UFW, right? So the simple firewall, the uncomplicated, the simple firewall, right? So the simple firewall is blocking the IP itself, the request itself. That means the request will not even hit NGINX. That means the load on the NGINX will be 0 due to this request. All it is getting protected at our local firewall. So application also not getting in request. In this way, brute force not possible, DOS not possible, DDoS also not possible. So here what they are doing is, as explained, it's just evaluating the logs. It is identifying whether there is a wrong password kind of thing is happening in the log, and it is blocking. Similar to this, you can configure, let's say you can configure rules or jails with custom errors as well. Okay, custom errors, custom configuration as well, so that based on your condition you can block, you can enable the action. And for, let's say, if you want to enable, okay, if you want to enable okay, the source back, okay, let's say you want to unban, okay, unban. So then what you can do, so instead of like waiting for 10 minutes, you can unban it by specifying the IP address, what to unban. Okay, so let's say this is the IP address it blocked, right? I unbanned. Okay, so I just specified the IP address. Now you see it unbanned one source, right? Now you see IP tables -s. You won't see any fail2ban. So there is one, there is no rule related to that specific IP. Okay, now you see in this entire thing, you won't see anything. Previously there were rules related to my IP, right? It was blocking, you see, to this source it was blocking, right? Fail2ban. So now let's get into the, now you see it opened, it gave me this one option to line in. Now it will again allow me for 3 times. See, after that it started blocking. Okay, so it will again block. Now if you see, if I add the client again, client status, see again jail list is this one, and IP tables -s, the rule got added again. Okay, the rule got added again. So pipe grep f2b, you will see the rules. So it is blocking my IP from here. Okay, so I hope this example is useful. So in this way you can protect your application from, and you will see the requests are not reaching here because first time in the authentication issue itself engine is tracked, and the failed request also firewall tracked, or firewall blocked, it blocked by the firewall. So I hope this example is clear. So there are even like different ways to enable more protection to your application. I'm not getting into each and everything, but this covers like the major part of it. Okay, so if you like the video, please like or please press the like button below this video, and if you have any questions or feedback or comment, please comment below the video, and also please subscribe to my channel to get interesting videos like this. Thank you very much for watching this video. Thank you.